everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom. From movies, comics, TV shows, video games, we've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, with Court. And Court, we're here to continue our conversation about Avatar.
Yes. A very good movie. The last blockbuster of the year, the last big movie of the year, and it gets me excited. We love movies, I think. We love these stories, and I think this is the perfect ender for a pretty cool year in movies. Pretty interesting year in movies, if I may say so.
I would agree with both of those things that you just said. Culminating in this, it was 13 years in the making. Mm-hmm. It was much delayed, much dismayed. People were questioning whether we needed it, whether it was actually ever happening. Was it a big pyramid scheme? Were we ever getting these sequels? Who knows? And then this one finally
James Cameron knew.
It turns out James Cameron knew all along.
Yeah.
That we were going to get this movie, and it was worth the wait, in our opinion. As we talked about in our non-spoiler review, it was a spectacle as expected, but it was a movie that had a lot of heart that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. And we're going to dive into that and so much more when we talk about Avatar: Way of the Water. But first, we have a bit of news to get through. As per usual, per bi-weekly, a flurry of DC news that we were able to talk about a couple weeks ago at the end of the show, but now just a ton of other stuff has come out. Definitely mostly surrounding Henry Cavill and what is now not happening as Superman. So I guess we should start there.
You want to start from the inception? What's the inciting incident? The inciting incident, funny enough, was the Patty Jenkins thing. I think was the first thing that happened.
Yeah, so I guess the whole thing was James Gunn and Peter Safran kind of got together. Kevin Feige entered the mindscape. Yep. Like they formulated this plan. You know, they got their 10 commandments from the skies. He came down. Moses came down from the mountaintop, and he was like, "This is what we're doing with DC films in the future, and none of you are in it." Basically. Yep. I guess we could start there with Wonder Woman 3 that has been scrapped indefinitely, forever. Mm-hmm. It's done. It's dead. A lot of things surrounding what may or may not have happened, we don't really know. We know that they're just not into it. They're not interested in whatever was written, and that was it. Right.
And then rumors, I guess, is a big theme that plays through all this DC news because this has to do with YouTubers. Like, this gets into a whole bunch of stuff. But I guess the big overarch thing that happened was basically James Gunn is active on Twitter, so James Gunn tends to answer people on Twitter. He's not one of these, executives that doesn't say anything. Whether you like that or not is for another discussion, but we talk about what is. And James Gunn got into a conversation with a pretty prominent comic book YouTuber, and the comic book YouTuber said there's a report that James Gunn doesn't like Henry Cavill, and then James Gunn said, "The heck are you talking about? I don't like Henry Cavill." And then a roast battle ensued when James Gunn won, apparently.
Yep.
And which is funny, but beside the point. But what this culminated to is a couple days later, Henry Cavill released something that said, "Goodbye, I'm done playing Superman." Well, the report said they're doing a Superman movie that doesn't include Henry Cavill, and then a couple hours later, Henry Cavill said, "I met with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and they said that they don't need me anymore, and that they're going with a younger take on Superman, and that there's a new DC universe to be had, DC Studios, and I'm not a part of it, unfortunately."
Yeah.
It's sad.
One of the most short-lived return tenures in human history.
He got a cameo.
Yeah.
In a movie that is also a part of this equation.
So that is the end of, basically, this is the end of the quote-unquote Snyderverse as we know it. It's dead. We talked about Jason Momoa, how apparently Aquaman 2 is going to be his final outing as Aquaman, and then he is going to apparently transition to the role of Lobo for the future of DC films. Gal Gadot is done playing Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and I think Gal Gadot was like a question mark, and then they kind of axed Henry, and then they were like, no, if we're going to do this, then nobody's coming along for this ride. We're going to do a full tried and true reboot. And I think I said this about James Gunn. He came from a movie studio that's like has comic book characters that just knew it. And like what I think happened was like he came from like a movie studio that didn't have the two biggest parts of it in the universe, but they still were, the only studio that was making like 700 to a billion range. Every single movie they were putting out was just doing insane numbers. So he probably was confused as if he can do that with a talking tree and a raccoon, why they couldn't do that with Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. So he said, I'm going to have to start from scratch. There's no continuity errors. There's no time jumps. Like, I need to start from the jump with my own idea. So then we found out that he is writing the Superman movie, which to people's dismay, but I said, isn't this more of a layup than... Isn't it harder for him to do what he had to do with the Suicide Squad and the Guardians than it is with Superman?
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, I think that's a great kind of first step for this new DC universe, I guess you can call it, that James Gunn is going to be writing the Superman movie. Also, Henry Cavill and Gal Gadot had cameos in The Flash that are apparently being taken out now. And funny enough, this all culminates in The Flash kind of being the final movie of the old guard. Well, I guess Aquaman would be, right? Because Aquaman's coming out after The Flash.
I can't remember, man. Can't even remember.
So, yeah, then, that's going to be it. So, they also talked about the Michael Keaton movie that was apparently going to be a Batman Beyond movie, which makes sense. I feel like that was kind of the direction that was probably going to go in anyway.
Give him a Terry McGinnis. Yeah. Maybe in that case would have been a great example to get like an actor that he'd worked with, get Dylan O'Brien to be Terry McGinnis because they did American Assassin.
But that's no longer happening. And yeah, like you said, it's basically James Gunn shredding the DC universe down to its last atom and rebuilding a new one.
Yeah. Born out of fired personnel. They'll never know. We did know.
He also met with the Batgirl directors for some
I think they're going to get something. They'll probably... I think he feels bad and it's going to give them something. So maybe they just might release Batwoman or Batgirl and be like, cool, it's released. But new DCU, I'm glad we made that episode. So it's DC Studios now. It's James Gunn and Peter Safran. We're starting with Superman. He did tweet that Batman is integral to this too. So they've got characters that are super important. So I think we're starting from scratch. And like all the things people talked about, like they don't need to worry about one of the harder uphill battles. And that's like fitting in the stuff around, like getting it to kind of fit. Now they don't need to worry about anything fitting because they can start with the jump. And one of the things that I've said from beginning of the MCU, and then once the DCEU started to kind of kick off in 2013 to 2016 range, was like, they don't need to worry about having the rights to all their characters. They have all the rights, and they have three of the most recognizable characters of all time. That being outside of Spider-Man. Like, they have the Trinity. You have the superhero archetype, you have the human superhero, and you have the woman superhero. Like, you have the three that you want, and they couldn't figure it out, but I think they're going to figure it out.
Yeah,
I think this might be where we divulge in our hopes.
I'm not doing this again. I told you I'm not doing this again. It's like dealing with a bunch of snake oil salesmen. They're like, all right, maybe this didn't work, but we're going to start over and do it again. And then that doesn't work. And they're like, but we're going to start over and do it again. Just wait for this really cool thing to happen. And I'm like, been waiting. And it hasn't come yet.
Yeah, but this one feels real, essentially.
Maybe.
Like, this one feels actually real because I think the realness comes from they're like, we need to upend everything. We're starting from the beginning. Now, questions arise out of this. And I mean, I guess question number one is Robert Pattinson, right? That's probably the first question.
The only man left standing,
yeah,
essentially.
The only man left standing. Oh, I also, if he's going to do it, he needs to make sure that Harley Quinn is not Margot Robbie. I feel like that would be a disservice to everybody that you just fired, but she's the only one that gets to stay.
Right.
What's one character that you want to stay? There's only one character you can keep in the entire DCEU. Who's it going to be?
From like the now old universe?
From what's the last movie? From Man of Steel to The Flash. What's the one character that you're going to keep?
I mean, I probably would have kept Superman, to be honest with you.
That's the one character you're keeping?
It's probably who I would have kept. Yeah.
I saw somebody today and I thought about it. It's Amanda Waller. I'm keeping Viola Davis. Amanda Waller is the only character that's the same. Everybody else can get recast.
Because, I mean, I guess technically the Suicide Squad is going to be part of this new thing.
I don't think so. I think he's just...
Because he's doing another season of Peacemaker.
Well, I think that another season of Peacemaker is it. Like, that's probably it. That's what I would do. And then, I mean... Even on top of that, the beauty of this whole thing is the alternate Earth thing for DC. So they can truthfully just keep... The DCU, technically, I guess, is never dead. None of these things are... We saw that with Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, other IPs coming into one under the DC banner. Like, nothing's truthfully dead. I genuinely do think that we're going to get a on one more Henry Cavill Superman movie, but it's not going to happen for like 10 or 15 years. But when that movie comes out, it'll be one of the most gratifying movies. Because I think, like I said, they're going to do an amalgamation. I think what would be cool is you do an amalgamation of All-Star Superman and Kingdom Come, and you mix them together, and you kind of have like the elements of like the new guard of superhero versus like what the superhero is supposed to be like. And like he can see his journey from killing Zod all the way up to like seeing these heroes do the same thing that he did and being like, he can't do that at all. And then just with the trials in All-Star Superman, like all the things that Superman does on a daily basis, I think a mixture of those two stories and like an old man Henry Cavill Superman, I think would be the perfect send-off. I guess have James Mangold direct it, because that's his bag now. He takes old sage characters and makes them great.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But I guess we'll see. But you're right about Henry Cavill, because it didn't take him long to pick up a new project, because he has jumped into the seat of his passion project, which is a Warhammer 40K cinematic universe, as he put it.
That's cool.
That he'll be, a big part of. Obviously, anyone who has seen him online knows how big of a Warhammer 40K fan he is. So that's good for him. I'm glad that he's not wasting time, and he's getting busy doing something that he wants to do. He's not going to be returning to The Witcher, much to a bunch of people's dismay. That's still going forward with Liam Hemsworth in season 4. So yeah, we'll see what the future holds, I guess, for DC. Yeah,
and Henry Cavill, I hope Warhammer is the thing that he wants to do. I know he's a big fan, so I think that'll be cool, especially under Amazon Studios or Prime Studios. I think that's pretty cool. And just make him James Bond. I guess that's the biggest we're sorry you could give him. Look, I already gave my dream for what James Bond will look like. You get Henry Cavill, you get Denis Villeneuve. I just don't know if Denis Villeneuve is as locked into Dune as James Cameron is to Avatar, to the point where it's like, I'm not making anything else besides this thing. But I do think that I think Denis Villeneuve is an auteur, so I think he'll do other things. So I think that give me Henry Cavill, give me Denis Villeneuve. I don't know, who do I want to score the movie? Give me Nicholas Britell. I think he can make something really cool out of that. Or give me Ludwig Göransson. That would be kind of cool. And and give me Greg Fraser to shoot the movie. I think you put all those together. I think you can get an insane Bond franchise out of that.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah. Unless you just make Lashana Lynch Bond.
They could do that too. We talked
about. She was great. She was great. No Time to Die.
And then I guess the only other piece of this DC thing is the Black Adam piece, which has gotten very weird.
Yeah.
So I guess there's a feud now between Dwayne Johnson and Warner Brothers.
Yeah, so I guess the report goes that 1A is that he was asked to be in Shazam 2, which I thought before I heard that he was going to be in the post-credit scene of Shazam 2. I thought that was going to be the whole thing, because the Wizards are going to be like, who had that power before, you billion kids? It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson from WWE fame. And I guess not, because I guess what happened is he said no. He said, I'm not going to do a post-credit scene in this movie or a cameo in this movie. And then he unfollowed DC and he unfollowed Warner Brothers on Instagram, I think. Because Black Adam bombed. It was a real bomb. This movie did not do well. Like, I think Avatar's going to be on track to make 520 or 500 to 525, something in that range. And I think I can safely say it does feel like that for the opening weekend, just based off what we went to. But yeah, this movie did not make nearly as much money as they thought it would or needed to.
Or as much money as they thought it did. I guess things have come out from his team that kind of conflated the numbers a little bit.
Right.
Just a really weird ending to the hierarchy of power in the DC universe changing. And it did, just not in the way that The Rock thought, I guess.
Yeah. And this is the death and rebirth of the DCEU, but like it goes in DC Comics, DC is built upon the crisis / rebirth. So I wouldn't count the DCEU out 100%, maybe 95%, but I wouldn't count it out 100%. I do think we're gonna get the second and last season of Peacemaker. We'll get the Flash. We'll get Blue Beetle. Like, we'll get all these things, and then it will be done. And then we're gonna fly into the sun with a new Superman. Anybody you want to be Superman and anything. What do you want in this new DCEU? Just give me, besides consistency. Maybe.
Consistency would be nice, but I think
there's some in-universe things that you want.
I honestly kind of want them to avoid doing any type of crossover or Justice League for like a while. I want, I think we've talked about this before, how their strongest movies have been their kind of self-contained stuff that are kind of, like I said, I told you this, away from the podcast, like, let Marvel be the comic book brought to life kind of thing, where like anyone can show up at any given time, and let your universe be the character-driven kind of character study universe.
Outside of modern day in the Crisis, what was DC is built upon the fact, like, aren't DC solo stories really great? Like the Dark Knight Returns you talk about. I mean, the Flash Rebirth obviously has characters that pop up, but that's still a Flash story at the end of the day. You have All-Star Superman, again, a story where characters show up, but like it's all their solo titles that usually pop off really well, versus in Marvel, you look at their big things. What are their big things? It's the X-Men, it's the Fantastic Four, like big stories that happen. I mean, in the modern day for Marvel, like you have
Civil War.
Civil War was a huge one. Secret Invasion. Those are all big crossover events. But for DC, I think like the Court of Owls for Batman. Like I think All-Star Superman for Superman. Like you think of all these stories, like Green Lantern Corps and like the Green Lantern Jeff Johns run. Like they're single character. Like even as broad it will get, characters might pop up here and there. It's the fact that they're these single character stories where you could focus on them.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
that's a solid point.
Yeah, even if like the more successful of the movies, I mean, even maybe not dollar wise, but critical wise, Man of Steel, Joker, the Batman, all these, Aquaman made
Wonder
$1 billion.
Woman. Yep.
Wonder Woman, the first one. Shazam was kind of like a surprise kind of hit for them. Like, whereas like the ones that have been panned kind of critically, Batman vs Superman, the Justice League, I mean, I don't count the Suicide Squad in that because it's still kind of a character-driven story, even though it's about a team.
The first one or the second one? The
second one. That movie, we talked about it when we talked about that movie, is kind of built through Bloodsport and Ratcatcher. It's still kind of character-driven, even though it's about a team.
Peacemaker, same thing, an extension of that.
Yeah, so I think that's where their strength is. I think those are the stories they should be trying to tell. Get people on board with these characters first, and then the Justice League kind of team up stuff is kind of like your ace in the hole, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if you can get people on board with the characters, like a Justice League movie is essentially printing money at that point.
Yeah, I think it's a growth piece. Like I do think we're gonna feel the growth of these characters, and it's gonna feel genuine. Like I think we're gonna get that Superman, like that Man of Tomorrow, a Superman that feels like he's going through the trials and tribulations of Clark Kent. Like I didn't think we spent nearly enough time with Clark Kent, and I'm talking like reporter Clark Kent, day-to-day Clark Kent with Henry Cavill. I think we need more of that. And then just going over for Batman too, I do think we're going to get a new just based off what he said, like I do think we're going to get two Batman at the same time. You're going to get your art house Robert Pattinson Batman movies with Matt Reeves, and then you're going to get your in-universe Batman that crosses over. And cool, go get me maybe a younger Batman. That would be cool too. But like, it's just, I think the culmination piece is going to be cool, because then when you get there, it's going to feel so much better when you get there.
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. I think that's, where James Gunn comes from, working so closely with Marvel. I think he realizes that, honestly. And
I think that was the big thing, is he probably went over and he's just like, why is this so complicated? Like, if it hasn't worked and it hasn't worked, why aren't we just going to start it? Like, let's just try over again and just start from scratch and try to do it right this time. But it was the fact that he immediately said, I'm writing the Superman movie, which makes me feel like he understands what Superman should feel like to the modern age and kind of what he can do with that. I'm excited to see. And Ben Affleck, I think they called him and said, if you want to direct something, give him the Batman movie, I guess. I think would be really cool. Apparently people don't know that he's an Oscar-winning director and that he's a co-Oscar winning writer. Like, did people just forget that he co-wrote Good Will Hunting when he was in his late 20s, and then he made Argo? Like, this guy got super talent, not only in front of the screen but behind the screen too.
Oh yeah,
and with the pen. So I think that would be a great talent. That's what you got to do. Go get some talent out, because I think DC allows you to play a lot more than Marvel does. That's one of the big critiques of Marvel, is their directors don't get to shine. I mean, Ryan Coogler is probably the biggest example of somebody shining, but like the big one for me that kind of got like capped a little bit was, as much as I do like the movie, it was Chloe Zhao with the Eternals. Like, it was peeking through sometimes, but I don't think it went full Chloe Zhao, like how she wanted it to be. Like, DC is kind of the antithesis to that. Like, they'll let their directors kind of do what they want, and I think if you
for
keep
better
that,
or for worse,
for better or worse, right? And I think James Gunn's gonna make sure it's for the better. So give me, like I said, give me Joseph Kosinski to direct that Superman movie. I think that would be awesome. I think he deserves like a big superhero movie where he can kind of play a little bit, get a lot of practicals in there would be good, but understand what Clark Kent is too. I think that's super important. Give me that Batman movie. Give me a Batman movie. Let him go to Arkham for a bit. That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
And then, like I said, focus on the idea of like, there's some, you could focus on this slight idea of like something like that dark side aspect if you want to. Like, even if you don't want to do dark side, just if you want to do these solo stories, like, have them be grand if you're going to do these solo stories. That's cool too. So like I said, I think Green Lantern's a big piece of this. I think it's time for Green Lantern to come back because I think that's a character with a lot of rich lore.
Yes.
Specifically, that Jeff Johns run is just massive and grand, so you can pull a lot of stuff from that. And then I think something like this universe can culminate to a crisis where you do pull in back in the DCEU, you pull in the Arrowverse, like you could pull all these things into like a final crisis event would be pretty cool. So yeah, I think your character work, give us a Teen Titans, give us some Robins, like give us all that crap in there. Do what the comics make it great, but do it on a solo scale maybe to start, and then you can culminate.
Exactly. I think that's perfectly said. That being said, watch Black Adam on HBO Max.
Was that a shameless plug? Did The Rock just text you?
He did, actually.
That was crazy. I'm going to say something crazy. I'm probably going to rewatch Black Adam, but I'm not as excited to see Black Adam as I am the Justice Society.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's fair.
I care more about the Justice Society than I do Black Adam? Is that a problem?
Probably.
That's what happens when you try to get your B-list villain to be the biggest villain in the world.
Yeah.
But not a villain.
He's not he's not a hero. Man, remember that.
What a time when that movie came out.
Seriously, it was a whirlwind.
That was an event when that movie came out.
It was.
And then it fell. Because there was not a lot of rewatchability in that movie, I guess.
Nah.
There's like scene rewatchability on YouTube, but there's not full movie rewatchability.
No, definitely not. We got some Spider-Man news. So
Spider-Man adjacent news.
Spider-Man adjacent news. So first and foremost, man, I don't even know. This is very bizarre. So Donald Glover finally is entering the Spider-Verse officially, and but he's not what you think.
Yeah. This isn't going to go the way you think.
Not at all.
The Last Jedi came out 5 years ago, a couple days ago.
He's going to star and produce a Spider-Man villain spin-off film, Hypno Hustler.
We need to get the video set up just so you can see my reaction.
What is happening? Why do they do this?
I don't know.
Why are they doing this?
I don't know. What a hilarious Sinister Six this is going to be. What I would do for El Muerto, Hypno Hustler, Morbius, Vulture, Venom to team up, like, I would give anything for that.
Like, what? Why? Why are they doing this?
I don't know. I just think... Do I think it's going to be cool? Maybe. It's my one saving grace for this is that it's Donald Glover. Like, that's the one thing that I can, like... But, like, why? I don't
Who's asking for this?
I don't know.
Who asked for the Hypno Hustler movie?
I don't know. Just be Prowler in the MCU. I think they'll probably just be the Prowler. I think that was what you were kind of working up towards, is just being his uncle. And then you're just the Prowler.
Yeah.
And then you're just the villain of whatever the Miles Morales Spider-Man movie is in like 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, but instead we're continuing this weird Sony villain-averse.
Do you think that El Muerto movie is actually going to come out?
Yeah, Bad Bunny's in it.
Ah, crap.
That movie's probably going to make $1 billion, actually.
Come on, relax, chill out.
Don't underestimate the power of Bad Bunny, bro.
I will underestimate the power of Bad Bunny in a movie.
Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, don't do it. And if he does the soundtrack, poof. $1 billion.
But then Donald Glover's also going to do this soundtrack.
$2 billion, actually, for El Muerto. But on a better note, we did get an official release window for the Insomniac Spider-Man sequel for next fall. Great.
Yeah.
Good, perfect timing. Great.
Probably going to get the trailer hopefully sooner rather than later, maybe. Fall, October, they'll probably give us something again.
Maybe.
Because remember when we got like it was that teaser and then it was the actual game. It was the Fisk mission basically they showed off like months and months before the game that came out.
I think we'll probably get a trailer like early next year, like February-ish, and then either E3 or Summer Games Fest will get like a gameplay trailer because that'll be like early June-ish, early mid-June, and then the game will be out, October, November-ish. So yeah, that's pretty much what I would expect at this point for that kind of window. If that's what if they're sticking to that window, they seem pretty set on it. So
yeah, I think they're just in perfection time, perfecting everything, making sure everything looks great. Again, this is my single most anticipated game of next year. I think this game is going to be incredible. Stories on both games were great, and I think they're going to go even bigger and better. You get Venom, you get Kraven, you get Green Goblin in this game. So, and then you mix that with the gameplay of 2 Spider-Men at the same time, which is going to be something. So
or Venom.
Or Venom. That's the theory that you're going to get to play.
That's my prediction.
Venom. That's kind of cool. So we'll see. Tony Todd's Venom.
Yeah,
perfect.
Awesome casting. And I think that's pretty much it.
When Tony Todd voiced Zoom, and dragged Barry throughout the streets of Central City.
Yeah, we got a Flash season 9 trailer.
What a segue by me.
The final season trailer.
This is it.
It was fine.
It's cool.
It didn't show off a ton.
Yeah, but again, man, if there isn't an inkling, if there isn't like one spark of me that still has an affinity for the Flash, I'd just be lying to you.
This is it, Barry. This is your last season.
Yeah, this is it. Man, hats off to Grant Gustin for sticking this through, too, because maybe some actors would have stepped away. They could have went the Wally West route at some point, but he stuck it through the whole way, through the ups and downs of that show. And, I mean, as much as I joke about the downs, there is a lot of ups in that show. I mean, especially early on in that show, man, season 1 and 2, where that was like, whatever the CW, the CW aura that people don't like at the end of the day, like if you can, stomach that, it still was a lot of good and somewhat must-watch television. Like, there was a little point in The Flash where, like, I remember, like, a lot of people were watching that show, and a lot of people were going to it week in, week out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, if anything tells you about how they can end their shows, Arrow is the perfect example of how to end a show. Stargirl just ended, something that we'll probably talk about. Maybe we're booked. We're booked up, so maybe early next year we'll recap season 3 of Stargirl.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to see what they send Grant Gustin off to, and I hope he has
it's a little different, with the Flash and Arrow, and I think that might have been the only ones, honestly, that they knew going in that this was going to be their final seasons. I'm pretty sure Legends of Tomorrow ended kind of abruptly. Stargirl ended kind of abruptly. Yep. Batwoman ended kind of abruptly. So the Flash and Arrow, they knew going in that these were going to be their final seasons, so they kind of are able, I'm assuming with the Flash, with Arrow, it already kind of paid spades, but like they can curate the final season as more of like a tribute, for the character and the actors. So I'm expecting this will probably be pretty high quality. And then that being said, let's talk about something that was also a very high quality, being Avatar 2.
The Last Airbender.
Nope. Well, we'll get into it, because there's water, there's air, there's earth.
Yep.
I'm not... Look. I don't seem suspicious?
Yeah. I think what you guys should do is go listen to the spoiler free, and so that way you're ready, and I think we should just jump right into spoilers.
Well, hold on, because I got some numbers.
Oh yeah, get the numbers out.
I have partial numbers, because the weekend's not over yet, but the weekend is over at the end of Avatar 2. Mm-hmm. So... yeah, this is on pace to be pretty monstrous, but it is not going to hit. It doesn't look like it's going to hit the opening weekend for Doctor Strange 2.
I remember Doctor Strange. You remember how the theater felt for Doctor Strange 2? It felt like it was like we were back, like the Marvel Go was back.
So it's going to land probably just short of that. Probably anywhere between 450 to 500 million, which is no small.
Yeah, that's still a lot of money. People.
It absolutely dwarfs, obviously, the release of the first one, which, we talked about at the time was a real warning red flag, honestly, for the first movie when they were like, uh-oh. And then the first movie had this just incredible staying power behind it. So we'll see what happens with the second one. But critically, this movie has been pretty well received. The aggregation has put it at a 79% on Rotten Tomatoes among critics, which is pretty good. I think the first one's at 81 among critics, but 94% audience score, which is 13 points higher than the audience score of the first one. Yeah. And we talked about in the non-spoiler section, that was the vibe I got just being in the theater, that people that watched this really, really liked it a bunch. So that checks out, in my opinion. That just feeling the vibe of the theater that we were in, that
Yeah, people are engaged. Engagement is huge. This is a medium that is supposed to be consumed, so people were invested. And again, the big thing that we took from the non-spoiler is that people were obviously you're invested in the visual. It's a big world that you're coming back to, that you're a little bit familiar with, but now you're going into new territory, and there's something that's amazing about that. But the thing that really invests you is the character work and how much you feel for these beings. It's incredible what they were able to do and what James Cameron was able to kind of craft through his characters, and that's really where you get people. That's where you get people to stay.
Yeah. And so let's talk about this movie. Speaking of those characters that you mentioned, so this is a very character-driven movie. Yep. At the heart and soul of this movie are not Jake and Neytiri necessarily, but the children. Yep. The 4 children that are kind of at the core of this film. Well, 4 children plus 1, plus a human kid.
Right.
And they are the heart and soul of this movie, for lack of a better word.
Right, and specifically Loak, and we'll get into him right now, because to me, it is Jake, but I think he, for much of the film, is the main character and the point of view character for this movie. He's
spent a lot of time with him.
Yeah, he's outcasted. He doesn't feel connected to anybody. He can't get anything right. Essentially, Jake brushes him off a lot because, like I said earlier, I love the way Jake treats his kids, especially his sons. He treats them as soldiers, essentially, and they need to be tight, tough, and do the right thing in the heat of battle at all moments. And his younger son just can't figure it out. He's not a bumbling idiot, but he's always making making rash and fast decisions, and that lends to great character work, because once he does the right thing, or once he makes the decision to still do that thing but do it for the right reason, it makes it feel much better.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think of all the characters in this, he goes on the most interesting journey.
Yeah.
Maybe not world-wide. He goes on the most interesting journey. That's reserved for another character. Yeah. But just as far as a character arc in itself, it's definitely the most interesting, definitely the most compelling. I think you're spot on. I think, even though Jake's the one we're most familiar with, we get the infamous Jake Sully narration over the top of things again, and so he's still very much ingrained in the story. But yeah, I think Loak is definitely the most interesting character in this movie.
Yeah, so in terms of character and character arcs, I think he's the most interesting. In terms of world building and lore, Sigourney Weaver as Jake and Neytiri's daughter, born from
Grace's avatar.
Yes.
In unknown ways,
is by far, in terms of lore, by far just leaps and bounds the most interesting character in this movie. What
did you think of that? Her being voiced by Sigourney Weaver. Do you think that could have been another actress?
Maybe. I think it's deeper than that. I think the only reason you get away with it is because if you look at it face front and you just look at the cast list and you're just these are their kids, and it's a whole bunch of actual teenagers and really young adults, and then it's Sigourney Weaver here, it's a little bit jarring. But I think as soon as you understand, because they deal with it quick, that she's different from all the rest of the kids. She's not the same as the other 3 kids. She's different from the other 3 of them. That's why I'm okay with it, because there's something she's got something to her.
She's Jesus.
Yeah. So you're thinking what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
She's Awa.
Yeah.
She's the living embodiment of Awa. So yeah, she essentially is Pandora Jesus, and she's all powerful.
She has mastery over the creatures and the wildlife.
Yep. Yep. And it's funny because there's like this really interesting like dream sequence scene where she connects to the to the underwater world tree that we find later. There's more than one on Pandora, and
they all got one.
They all
got one. The
right.
forest tribe has one. The water tribe has one.
Right.
What other tribes we see in the future will presumably have one.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. So she connects to it, and she sees a vision of Sigourney Weaver, and she's like, I miss you. A really beautiful scene, I might add.
That she's having with herself?
See, that's the thing. Like, and she says...
It's
like,
still jarring.
Right, it is very jarring, but, like, the big pull from it is, like, she asked, like, something's bothering her, and I guess one of the things is, like, who's my father? Like, and then I pulled the Smee Skywalker, like, he has no father. He was born out of the Force. Like, she has no father. She was born out of Awa. That's what I think they're going for. Like, I think it's, like...
I mean,
she's like
all signs seem to point to that.
Yeah, that she's, like, a being. She's, like, an entity, essentially.
She has powers.
Yeah, and it's like interesting, like her father is like this her mother is like the daughter of like tribesmen passed down all the way down to her, a great warrior herself, and her father is like a fabled skyman that came down and essentially took over the body of one of them and is like this like fabled hero. So like and she came from like another sky person that's connected to, like, it makes sense that they would kind of prop her up as like, you know, because the 5th movie is called The Quest for Awa, which essentially might be a surrogate for the Quest for Sigourney Weaver, maybe,
but also James Cameron has said that whatever he's done for the 3rd film could serve as an endpoint for the entire franchise.
Just in case, right? Just in case he doesn't.
So I feel like we may get that journey explored at the end of the next one, if it comes to pass.
Sure. Which I do think he's going to get that 3rd one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. So again, Sigourney Weaver as Kiri, essentially, she's the MacGuffin. She's a big MacGuffin in this. She's like bending the elements around her. Like, it's a MacGuffin
really... in the sense that like it's kind of under the radar. Like it did feel a little jarring to me that at times it did feel like her kind of role in all this was very understated and very like start-stoppy. Like, this feels like it's getting important, and then like she kind of vanishes for like a while.
I think it's because how powerful she is and how quickly she learns. And I think the thing that like doesn't portray it, that it might in something like, you know, your Captain Marvel or something like that, where the character just has everything right to start, is that she died essentially. Like, Grace died before, and like this is like, it's beyond like, you know, your character that's like, you know, there and like a human and then gets like propped up to get power. Like, she doesn't even feel like one of them. Like, she genuinely does feel like she's like an entity. She doesn't feel like the rest of them.
Well, she picks up the water thing right away.
Immediately. Yeah. And that's like, that should have been like the first trigger. Like, there's something to her that the rest of them don't have. So she's like, they're all struggling. Like, the Sully kids are all struggling to breathe. Like, they have to, and she's just living in the water. And like, they ask her, like, where's Kiri? And she's like, she's still at the bottom of the ocean, just kind of connecting to the life down there.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a swing. It's a swing by James Cameron, and it's a swing I appreciate.
Yeah, I think so. And then, so who else we got?
So we'll talk about Jake and Neytiri, because I think it's not really a background, but it's a backstop, if that makes sense for them. And they're a North Star for their kids, and I think it's all the things that Jake learned, he kind of passed on to his kids. I think that's important, that Jake's arc, and I think Sam Worthington, like I said, I think he's great here. I really enjoy him. I love the jarhead dad mentality that he has. That, again, I think a lot of like men with kids are gonna relate to Jake, because he's tough on his kids, but with reason. Like, these kids are living on this planet that's hostile. Like, there's like, as much as they ever feel like this is home, like there's invaders that can come, and like he turns his sons into sort of generals, essentially, specifically his older son. And I think what that kind of displays is like how much he's changed, but how much he hasn't changed. Like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but you can kind of maybe lead it somewhere. Yeah, and I think that's Jake. Yeah,
as much as the kids are kind of like the heart and soul of this movie, Jake and Neytiri are like the fists, and the action of this movie, because I mean the third act, which we'll talk about, is essentially like a showcase for Jake and Neytiri, basically, and how formidable they are as protectors, which I think, you know, is cool, because it's something that we didn't really get to see until the very end of the first one, and we saw it pretty much bookend this movie, like in the beginning, where Jake is essentially an insurgent, basically leading and he's just a real pain in the ass to the RDA who's still present on Pandora.
Right, and
they're like, he's the worst.
Right, and that's why, and the relationships are really dynamic too, because it's different from kid to kid, but it's also the same. Like, I mean, obviously Loak has the most what are you doing, you dumb son? Like, you're not making any decisions right. But the best point that was made about that whole thing between us, I think, is the fact that that's him. Like, that's truthfully Jake when he was younger, and I don't think he wants to see, his son end up, but that's what made Jake great, and I think that's what's going to make Loak great. Yeah. And then you have his older son, essentially, and we'll talk about him a little bit further, but he's, again, and it's said to him, you're the perfect son. Like, you're the older brother that's perfect, and that doesn't do anything wrong, and I kind of like what they do with it too, because he follows a lot. Like, he doesn't know how to really take charge on certain things, and that's
coincidentally you're also the one who doesn't get an arc, right? And
he's the tragic hero in that sense, is his following mentality led him to that, and that he couldn't. But again, that's the border for the family that they needed, as a family to come together, truthfully.
Yeah. And then we got a little kid,
cute little kid, Took.
Yeah,
everybody's favorite.
Yeah, she's fun.
Yeah, she's fun.
She also doesn't have much of an arc.
No, she's the kid.
Kid. She's fun.
She's the kid with the funny one-liners.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then we have the other kid. Mm-hmm. The other kid. What's his name? Spider. I remember things.
Does this call for a dun-dun? I think this does call for a dun-dun-dun.
Human kid, first of all.
Yes, human kid. They do dive into the lore. Norm's back.
Norm.
Max Patel's back. So they're back, the scientists from the first one that didn't leave.
Very briefly.
Real brief, yeah. And I like that, too, that they didn't keep them in the movie to kind of... it's the same thing that Transformers just do. Who cares about the humans? Just give us the same thing. Just give us the Na'vi. So... they're back, and they got a kid with them that's running around that really just wants to be a Na'vi kid.
It's Tarzan.
And it's just so he...
right down to the hair.
Right. So Kiri's looking at Grace's avatar, and she's like, I love my mom. I'm looking... she's just looking at her mom in the tank, obviously. And Spider's there, and he's looking, and he gets real sad because he's thinking about parents and kids. And then Kiri looks over, and she's like, you're nothing like him. And I said, wait a minute, are they gonna do the thing? And then lo and behold, guess who they cut to? You can do it.
Dun dun dun.
They cut to Quaritch, because Stephen Lang's Quaritch is Spider's dad or son. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. By the way, Quaritch is the villain in this.
Yeah.
Again.
Yep. Yes.
Wonderful.
We're going to tell Stephen Lang no? Dude, we're going to get a new villain? Absolutely not.
No. Just go back to that well. Beat that drum as many times as you need, because he's, again, wonderful.
Yeah. Oh my god. He chews the scenery but there's a subtlety in the way he chews the scene. You can feel the first one was definitely a 2009 movie, a 2009 action movie versus a 2022 drama, essentially, versus...
He's still very cheesy.
Yeah.
But he's got a little...
But guess what he gets to do? He gets to be a dad.
For a little bit.
Yeah, he gets to be a dad for a little bit, and
he gets to do the Jake Sully arc from the first movie.
He's one step behind Jake Sully. So the next movie, he's gonna have to go into the water to learn, and he's gonna have more kids.
He gets to do, he got to do Avatar 1 in this one.
Yeah. So then he's gonna do Avatar 2 the next movie. He's just gonna be one movie behind, which sucks for him.
I love this.
Man. If it works.
I don't care how convoluted it is that he somehow got backed up into an avatar.
Somehow Quaritch returned.
Somehow Quaritch returned, but I'm okay with it.
Right.
Because he's great.
Yeah. Put Stephen Lang in everything.
He's tremendous in this. Again.
An old villain in a James Cameron movie, that's a potent mix. Gives me the goosebumps. He does the thing again. He did the monologue again that he did in the first one. And it's great. That scene is really cool where they come back. It almost feels like a video game cutscene. When they're dropping back into Pandora and they incinerate the forest.
People will complain about it. I to quote the great words of Cheryl from Remember the Titans, or not Cheryl, Cheryl's friend from Remember the Titans, I do not care. It was great. I want him in all of these for as long as this thing goes. I want him to be the villain every time.
I want him to be in it, but what's the thing that I think we might agree on?
That they're gonna team up in the next one?
They got to. They have to. I would do anything for them to team up.
That would be wild.
I would do anything for Quaritch and Jake to have to come to a truce for a little bit, even after he killed his oldest son. Like, oh man, I would do anything for that.
I got distracted talking about Stephen Lang.
So basically, the plot of this movie goes: Stephen Lang returns, and which is one thing that I don't know how I feel about it yet, that their whole mission is just revenge, because
his mission is revenge.
His mission is revenge. Like, the big mission, like, and another world building piece is that you finally found out that Earth is dying. Like, Earth is near death, and they need a new world. And like, the human race said, we're gonna terraform. We're not really terraform it, but we're gonna use Pandora. Pandora is gonna be our new Earth, and we're gonna transport everybody. But we need you to clear out the Na'vi, and then we're gonna transport everybody.
He's like,
yeah. Can I kill Jake Sully, he asked. And then the general said, I don't know who Jake Sully is, but sure. And then he said, Claire, and then he does it.
And then, yeah, because, again, this was, minor issue. Like, Quaritch shows up in his new avatar body, and he's like, I'm here to kill Jake Sully and kill Jake Sully only. And there's this general lady who's like, I'm in charge here, and you're going to listen to what I say, Quaritch. And then she just vanishes.
Yep, and then he's in charge.
He's in charge of everything.
Yeah, right. You think, one thing I maybe would have liked is, like, if they added a layer of, like, discontent with the new avatars, because, like, they just spent all their lives trying to kill them, and then all of them died and are reborn in the avatar body. Like, I would have liked if the humans on Pandora that came back with them were, like, a little bit more distant and didn't like them as much.
I would have liked that. I also would have liked a little bit of conflict between her and him, where, like, he is essentially hijacking her mission for a personal vendetta.
Right, and she's just like, I don't care about Jake Sully, like, I just need the player to be cleared, and, like, he's like, alright, our interests still aligned, because, like, he's an insurgent leader, like, if I kill him, like, a big issue of yours is going to be taken care of, and if he is who he says he is, like, he's this fabled hero now, like, if I take him out, it's going to kill their spirit a little bit, too.
But he starts to take it a little too far.
Yeah.
When he enlists the hunters and like, he's just waging war unnecessarily, like, to get to Jake.
Right.
And it feels like someone should have stepped in and been like, hey, man, dial it back a bit, Chief.
So, we get a really, really great... Again, it's a parallel to one between... Stephen Lang kind of goes what Sam Worthington did in the last movie. So, they drop in, but guess who they see while they're there? They see the kids. The kids are out because... Loak just can't just sit still and do nothing. He's always just on the prowl for trouble.
And they're at the old...
They're at the boss fight of the first one.
They're at the third act of Avatar 1.
Right.
Where we get just the greatest moment maybe in cinema history.
Man.
Of Quaritch finding his carcass, his skeleton.
Yep.
And he picks up his own human skull.
Yeah, because the other guy from one asks him, like, do you wanna save the remains? And he just crushes the skull and he's just like, why?
Because he gets the memories of Quaritch, but he's not Quaritch, but he is Quaritch.
Well, it's not like other movies and TV shows where you just get the memories, but you're a different person. Like, it's Quaritch. Like, he gets everything from him. Like, his memories, his wants, his desires, his needs.
Not his death.
But not his death.
Obviously.
He didn't know up until he looked at the footage from...
Yeah, and then he saw the end of Avatar 1 from first person.
Yep, right.
First person view.
Yeah, for the kids that didn't see Avatar in 2009, he just did what you guys did a couple months ago.
Yep. He got PTSD because Neytiri riddled him with arrows.
Because she's an issue.
Because she's built different.
Right.
And then, he crushes his skull and he's like,
and then that's a really great sequence in the first act. Like, I think that's the end of the first act. Like, that's just a really well done sequence. Just the this idea of the eclipse, I think, is pretty cool. Like, the sun setting on the world, I think, is a really good, really cool visual detail. But it's a really cool visual storytelling detail. I think it's really interesting.
He's able to briefly detain the kids,
right? But
for the first time,
you learn quickly not to mess with Jake and Neytiri. Don't let Jake and Neytiri in space. They turn into Derrick Henry when they're in space.
He's got an axe. Jake's got an axe now?
Yeah. He's got a gun. He's got an axe.
He's got an axe.
Yep. He's got his son that listens and his son that doesn't listen.
Neytiri has a bow and arrow that she is absolutely lethal with.
Lethal. Oh my gosh. She just takes out anybody that she... Avatar, human, doesn't matter. If you're in the way of that arrow, you're dead. It's over for you.
Yeah.
So they kind of clear out the forest, but they lose the kids. They promptly get the kids back. Great. Good job. And Quaritch gets extracted, essentially, but they take Spider. Dang it. They got the human one.
Yeah. He bonds.
Yeah.
He bonds with Quaritch.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly.
You know why I think he bonded so quickly? Is because he wants to be an Avatar. He wants to be a Na'vi so bad. That's why I think, like, if it was normal Stephen Lang Quaritch, he probably would have been, I don't care about you, but I think it's the fact that he was looking at Na'vi Quaritch and, like, this proclamation that I'm your dad and this promise of what could be.
And he liked knowing things.
Yeah.
Like, he liked the fact that Quaritch didn't know how to operate as a Na'vi.
Yeah, I think it's what he had to go through. I think he likes teaching it to other people.
Yeah, even if they're not great people.
Right.
He
loves the game.
Very briefly, a lot of this, because this is when it stood out to me, a lot of this movie is at an elevated frame rate. Mm-hmm. These action sequences are insane with this elevated frame rate because it speeds up the frame rate and then we dial back down to slow motion. I thought it looked really good.
It was cool.
Once you adjust to it, because there is an adjustment.
The first half, it might be a little bit of a task, especially in the 3D, to kind of get used to it. But after you settle into it, again, I just think it's the whole invoking of like a National Geographic. It just makes it feel more real once you do that. I think that's probably what they were testing with it a little bit. And I think in the second half, I think in the middle of the movie, that's where it worked the most because, again, that slog, quote unquote, that you could cut from the middle, like that's human building. Like that's the stuff that like you're going to complain later that the humans didn't matter, and then you give us that, and then you're going to complain that the movie's too long.
Yeah, and that's essentially where we go, because after they get the kids back, Jake is like...
We're out.
Yeah, we're moving.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way to protect the people.
It's just Ice Cube's Are We There Yet?
We're going to leave the people to protect the people.
Mm-hmm.
We're leaving the setting of Avatar 1 behind, and we're moving on to the second set.
Yeah, because James Cameron just had to name this The Way of the Water.
Yeah, so we're doing the water ones this time, and that's where they end up. They go to the water tribe, essentially, and he's just like, hello, you remember me, Jake Sully from Avatar 1. I would like to live with your community. And he runs into his old war buddy from the first one. He's like, yeah, we're friends. And then he's like,
who's the war buddy? It's Cliff Curtis. It's Cliff Curtis.
He's like,
and who's Cliff Curtis's wife?
Yeah, if you think I'm tough, you should see my wife.
And his wife just was Kate Winslet.
Yeah.
Tough is the best way to describe. She's mad for
he's like
an hour, 2 hours of film.
I'm fine if you crash at my place, but I gotta run it by my wife first.
Right, exactly. And she's just like, absolutely not. Look at them. Look at their stupid tails.
And then Neytiri's like, you must not know who my husband is.
Neytiri Karen'd out. She said, you remember when my husband looked down because he said the baddest thing in the sky, didn't think to look up? Yeah, that was my husband.
Remember when he jumped on the back of that red bird thing?
Yeah. It was awesome, right?
And became a legend?
No, and then Kate Winslet said, I didn't see Avatar 1 because I was at the water.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't there, actually.
But eventually they do acquiesce, and they're like, all right, well, you gotta keep up.
Yeah, but it's your kids, Marty. You gotta worry about your kids. So the kids aren't getting along.
Of course.
They're beefing big time. The two sons versus the two sons, basically. But while all this crap is going on, Kiri's just immediately like, oh man, this is why Took's good. That's why you need your little kid character, because like it's just a little one-liner. She's just like, I want to go home. I'm like, I want to go home too. I'm sad. But Kiri's just getting it. Like she's in the water. Like she's just connecting to it easily.
And they're like, stop being a freak.
Mm-hmm. And then Loak's like, you see my pinky finger?
With the five fingers faded to the face.
Right.
Slap.
Man, he should have slapped him. That would have been even better.
I would have loved it if he would have slapped him. But he punches him.
Oh, yeah. So they box for a little bit. And then there's a great moment with Jarhead Jake, because it's not only is it just Father Jake Sully, it's still Jarhead Jake Sully. So Jake looks at his older son. He's just like, man, how do the other kids look? And he's like, worse, much worse. And he looks at him. He's like, he gives like the dad like when you get in a fight and like your mom's pissed but your dad's like good, like that's exactly what it was.
And then the water kids take Loak out on a little trip.
Right.
We'll show them what for. This will be funny. Funny prank.
Mm-hmm.
Kill him, basically.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, pranked you good, you're dead.
He runs into a shark type creature.
A Pandora shark.
Pandora shark. And then he's rescued by a Pandora whale.
Yeah. An ancient Pandora whale.
Yeah.
Cool. These whales are super intelligent. And he just...
Boy, are they.
Yeah. So he befriends the whale. Him and the whale are boys now.
He gets back.
Yeah.
And they're like, why'd you befriend that whale? That's the worst whale.
Yeah, that's the rogue whale that likes to kill. And he's just like, I don't think this is true. This doesn't seem right.
This is not my whale.
Yeah, not my whale.
Not my whale that I just met.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Quaritch is trying to get he comes to a realization he needs to do what, again, he's just reliving Avatar.
He's just doing Avatar 1.
He's like, I need to be enveloped in this world. So he goes to the cliff, goes to the Hallelujah Mountains. He's just like, I'm gonna get one of these sky birds. These are pretty cool. I'm gonna get one for myself. And he gets one.
He fights it.
Oh, he boxes. He's just throwing hands.
He punches it.
He punches it. That's funny. It's great. Man,
they think he dies.
Stephen Lang in this movie.
They think he died.
But he doesn't.
He's like, I did it. I'm the man.
Yeah, I'm the man.
I'm the best.
Yeah.
And he's like, who's next? Turns out none of them, because none of them tame them, other than him.
Well, the scene cuts. That's more important. This movie's 3 hours long. The scene needed to cut. So
yeah.
We go back. Loak brings his best pal back. And he's just like, they're like, no, Loak, don't. You can't do this. Yeah, what else happens? They're beefing. The kids are still mad. The kids are still beefing.
But he gets back and he's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. It was my fault. Mm-hmm. And then the river kid's like, why'd you stick up for me? And he's like, shut up.
Shut up, man. I know what it's like to be a screw up my whole life.
And then, meanwhile, Kiri she has that connection with the spirit tree, but it has some unforeseen consequences.
So, yeah, she goes in and she sees Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, she does that. We talked about that.
Right,
and then she seizes. Mm-hmm. She goes into a seizure, and they have to...
Norm. Get out of here, Norm.
This was I'm stepping back a bit.
It felt 2009 again.
It's a very goofy way to incite the conflict.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Where, like, Norm shows up to try to help her, but he can't. Mm-hmm. So... Kate Winslet steps in and she's like, I got this with my Pandora Navi magic medicine. And then the military's like, we got a rogue helicarrier somewhere around these islands. That must be where they are.
Right. Man, Norm, you suck.
Boo, 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 you Norm. So he tells Jake essentially, like, if she ever does this again, she's going to have another seizure and she'll die. And then nothing ever comes of that?
Nope. Well, I mean, she does it again, but then she gets all powerful from it.
The reverse of a seizure.
Yeah, some would say I'm the antithesis.
Yeah, and then
Quaritch basically turns into ice.
Boy, does he!
He just turns into border patrol, or he turns into like.
He links up with these whale hunters, essentially.
Jeez. Well, this is like the message of the movie, like the real world message that James Cameron tried to do in one with the forest, and now he's trying to do with two with the oceans, and he uses the music that he used when the forest was destroyed, and like
it's a brutal.
You know why it's so brutal? Because how long they prolong it. They take you through every single last step of why
it's like horrifying.
Of how they like. Kill these like armored whales essentially.
It's horrifying.
It is horrifying. Like there's so many steps into this. Like
harpoons through the fins.
Sonic cannons to make them deaf, and then like they separate them. Like it's insane. Like how they do it. And then you find out that they do this to just get like anti-aging cream from the brain of these whales, and then they don't even care about the bodies. They just dispose of them.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then, like I said, they played the same music that they did from one.
And Quaritch was like, that's great. He's like, dump that whale in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, Quaritch said, I don't care about your anti-aging cream. I'm an Avatar now. I don't care about your anti-aging cream.
Yeah, because Jake Sully has a conscience, and he's gonna...
Man, they really did bring back the unobtainium, but just for the Kardashians. That's crazy.
But Loak bonds with his rogue whale, and he finds out what happened. And basically what happened is this whale tried to mount a resistance to the humans, and he inadvertently got a bunch of whales and sea people killed in the process, and that's why he's the outcast. Right.
He didn't kill anybody himself, but he got people killed.
And even if they're under attack, they should not attack.
Right.
Basically, they're a pacifist creatures.
Right.
And that whale's like, screw that noise.
No, yeah, I'm pulling up. It's on site.
And yeah, then we basically launch. The kids get taken again.
Yep.
Because
Took's like, I can't believe this.
Because lo and behold,
I've been taking every single time.
Lo and behold, Lowok's whale gets tagged with the hunting beacon.
And then it's the third act.
Yeah, so all the kids rush out to free this whale from its tracking, and they're like, "We got him." And the army's like, "We got him. Here we go."
It felt like a video game like moments. It was like when Spider-Man gets the suit is when Jake and Neytiri were like gearing up to go get the kids. I'm like, lo behold, the soul that decides to or woe tide the soul that decides to take Jake and Neytiri's kids, because
and it's Quaritch.
It is
Quaritch
Quaritch.
is that guy.
Oh man.
So he's basically like, you know why I'm here. Jake Sully, it's for you.
Yeah.
You come to me, I kill you, I let your kids go. And he's like, sounds great, thanks.
I'm on the way.
I'm on the way.
BRB.
And then that whale had other plans.
Yeah, the whale turned into LeBron James. It was crazy.
That whale said, fool me once with your harpoon, shame on me.
Fool me twice. I'm going to do a belly flop onto the carrier.
And split it in half almost.
Got one of the best audience reactions I've heard in a while.
And then the Australian hunter fires a harpoon at it, and he blocks it with his head, and he's like,
Boom, you looking for this? And then he's just...
He gets his own action sequence.
Well, Kwando, if you may. It was awesome.
He has his own action sequence against the hunters. Good little character arc and payback for the whale.
Yeah, yep. That was cool. That was
very
awesome.
cool.
Yeah. So there he goes. He kills anti-Steve Irwin.
Reverse Steve Irwin.
Some would say I'm the reverse. Kills him, and then it's on.
Also has great karmic timing, because he got his fin ripped off by the hunters. So he somehow knew to rip the hunter's arm off.
That's what the marine biologist was talking about. He said like they're way smarter than we are. Or
Extremely intelligent is an understatement.
Right? Yeah.
That whale got a ripcord wrapped around that guy's arm and then
cut his arm off. This movie was way more brutal than I ever thought of. This movie got super, like, Neytiri was sniping people in the head, and they were showing it. I was like, wow, this guy got his arm ripped off. Like, that was
and they're
crazy.
blue. It's fine.
Oh, sorry. So, my bad.
As long as they're blue, you can show as many people getting.
I should have thought harder about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, third act, and then it kicks in the hyperdrive, and it turns into a full-out third act.
Full-out action movie.
You know what it turns into.
Titanic, but with an action sequence.
That is exactly what this turns into.
And you know what? I'm okay with it.
What's your Titanic theory?
That it should have had an action sequence, and it would have been better.
Who?
Billy Zane and Leo DiCaprio. And that's what we got.
Yep.
Basically. We do this.
Get Billy Zane as the villain of the third one.
Oh, shoot.
That would be awesome. Oh,
Stephen Lang and Sam Worthington teaming up against Billy Zane.
That would be incredible. And then he's going to take the kids again, and then Billy Zane's going to say the line again. I'm a child.
So this happens quite a bit in this third act, where Quaritch is like, I got you, Jake Sully. Surrender. And Jake Sully's like, I'm gonna. And then he doesn't. So we do that a few times before it all comes to a head, essentially. So all the people are in place. The kids launch separate rescue missions for different people. So who goes? Lowok, the two brothers, Lowok and his older brother, go to save right? Spider.
Yep. Why?
Because no man gets left behind.
Yeah.
No child gets left behind. In the great words of George Bush.
Should have left in mind.
In the process, the older brother is killed.
Man.
That's why
an audible sadness swept over like, you talk about engagement, like, that was like that death.
For a character that didn't have an arc.
Well, it's because of how the other characters reflect and how their family came together, because like it's all the choices that James Cameron makes in that moment. Like, all the character choices, like, Jake immediately is just like, he treats it like a soldier. Like, he doesn't have time to grieve. Like, somebody's trying to kill the rest of his family. Like, he's like, he looked like the Neytiri. And this is why Zoe Saldana's like incredible. Like,
another big time shriek.
It's her. It's when she's in her most savage moments is when she's like the most vulnerable. I think she's incredible, and like,
and
that's
Spider's afraid of her.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, that sequence is just gut wrenching when his oldest son dies. Like, he says the line, and I'm just like, he says like, I want to go home, and Jake says, we're going home, man. Like, we're going home, buddy. And then it's when he like takes his last breath. Like, the whole audience is like, oh my god, like, they really just killed this kid, and that was it. And then like that's when it like immediately that's like it was like the second half of Top Gun's second or third act, like when they got the F-14 back. That was like that same thing. Like this is the second half of the second.
And it was he dies, and then Quaritch comes over the comms.
Mm-hmm. Oh my, yeah, he's like,
I know you can hear me.
I know you can hear me. I know you can hear me, Corporal. I said, man.
He's like, you come to me right now, you won't have to lose another kid. I was like, Jesus.
So Neytiri and Quaritch or Neytiri and Jake gear up their wrecking shop. Just absolutely anybody on that ship's dying. Like if you're a human or an avatar dressed like a...
The ship's also sinking, by the way, while this is happening.
Because Titanic. So the ship's sinking because you need to add a clock onto this third act. So the ship's going, they're just going crazy. They're killing everybody.
The two girls get kidnapped again.
Duke's like, I can't believe I got kidnapped again. Me neither, Duke. This sucks. Gotta get out of there, kid. She's always in like the path of danger. Like, get her out of there.
Yeah, this is just a phenomenal action sequence.
The sun setting, like the sunset like on top of this too, and then it like transitions into night.
And they're just doing just
the most obscene things to these soldiers.
And these soldiers are just getting obliterated.
Oh my, it's incredible. It's awesome. It's insane. So then he's got his daughter, and
he's got Kira.
Mm-hmm.
And then Quaritch takes Kira, and then Neytiri takes Spider.
Yeah, in a turn, because Spider. I think this is Spider starting to sense a little bit of like who he is. Like, I'm still a human because like,
and he is noticeably shaken whenever he sees Savage Neytiri.
Mm-hmm.
Because they mentioned in the very beginning of the movie that she doesn't like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like from jump, so he's very visibly shaken whenever he sees her enter that like savage killer mode, and
she got their time a little bit in this. So
she, without hesitation, grabs him.
Yep, and he's just like a kid for a kid, essentially.
And Quaritch is like, "You think I'd care about him? Like we're not even blood." Mm-hmm. And Tyrion's like, "Oh yeah, watch this." Mm-hmm. Shink
cuts him across, and he's just like, "Oh no, bro."
She's like, "Next time it's gonna be his throat." Essentially.
Yep. And then Quaritch in a move because he says like, "I don't care about this kid. I'm not Quaritch. Like I don't care."
The most un-Quaritch like move. Yep. He surrenders. He folds.
Yeah, he does. And that's it. The day saves.
Yeah. Or so you think.
And Quaritch,
he can't help himself.
He hits him with the Marty McFly chicken from Biff. He says, "Listen, like, you're just going to let me go. You know I'm not going to stop. Man." I'm going to jump the gun when we talk about our favorites, but my favorite line from this movie, Sam Worthington turns around and says, and he goes like, "All right, you're gonna leave, or we're gonna," he said, "or we're gonna do this, like we're gonna," and then Jake just there's just nothing, and Jake just turns around, he's like, "Let's get it done," and it's just a hand-to-hand combat sequence between the two of them. Yep. Insanity ensues. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, the way, I'm telling you, Sam Worthington's good here.
Yeah, it's very good. There's a big prolonged fight. The boat's sinking. Mm-hmm. They all have, for whatever reasons, each character gets dragged back into the ship essentially, and you think it's curtains for everybody, and then Kira props up basically with her magic.
Yep. Her Navi, her Pandora, her connection to Awa is strong.
She sends a bunch of water.
She has so many Pandora midichlorians, it's off the charts.
She sends a bunch of water fireflies through the water to guide everyone out, basically.
And then pays off the whole thought process of the way of the water, pays off between Loak and Jake. Jake's severely injured, so he doesn't think he can hold his breath enough to get out from under the boat and get up to the surface.
He leaves Quaritch for dead.
And then Loak repeats the speech that one of the other tribe's daughter gives to him. That they have a love story in here too, but he repeats the same thing to him, like the way of the water. It's the idea of life and death. All life starts with water and it ends with water.
Yep.
So he gives that speech to Jake. Jake kind of gets himself together, and then
the whale shows up.
Helps them out last second, gets them above. It's like in a video game when it's like that last second before you lose your breath.
Yeah.
So they do that. They're up to the surface. Meanwhile, Spider's down there, and Spider's also trying to look for Jake. But who does he find? He finds Quaritch, and you think he's just gonna leave him because you suck, Dad. You suck, Navi, Dad. You 9 foot tall, Dad. And in a stroke to become the most hated character of 2022, saves Quaritch, because again, Quaritch did save his life, so it's either a life for a life, but I think it's more. That's his dad. Like, whatever way you want to slice it, that's his father. So he saves his father. He doesn't agree with anything. He doesn't go with him because Quaritch offers him to go with him, but he says, I'm not going with you. Like, or Spider says, I'm not going, or he hisses at him basically, and he dives back into the water. But yeah, he saves Quaritch for more sequels.
Quaritch is like, come with me, son. He's like, no.
Yeah, and then Quaritch says, hoorah, and leaves. He doesn't say hoorah, but it's funny if you think about it that way.
I'll be back.
I'll be back
in the next one.
Right. So Kiri turns into she's AWA.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, she's the living embodiment.
They buried the son.
Yep, man, what a sequence. What a sequence. They bury the son, and then to already have me emotionally wrecked, and then go into if Black Panther did one thing, and then this movie did it again, you guys gotta stop. And then you go into the last part of the movie, and they go into the sea tree, and they connect to it, and then it's a vision of him teaching his oldest son how to shoot, and then it cuts between a young version of him and an old version of him, and I'm like, and he's like, Dad, why are you crying? And I'm like, man, what are you doing, James Cameron? Just relax for a bit, man.
Yeah, and then, the movie ends on a really interesting note where Jake's like, I realize now what I must do. And it's tapped back into the warrior within, essentially. Like,
yeah, from the Jarhead clan.
Yeah, he went to, his reluctant recluse journey in this one, and now he's come out the other side of it realizing that he'll never be safe.
A lot of, you know what that gave me the same energy as? It gave me the same energy, for Neytiri maybe more, but the same energy as when Rhaenyra lost her son in House of the Dragon. Man, that one kills me to the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's just her turning the camera with that tear in her eye.
And that's basically what happens with Jake, is his eyes are closed, they do a close-up, and then his eyes kind of open.
The same thing from one. I hope they end every movie like that. That's the thing. That's the standard now.
And, his eyes open, and there's, this menace about him that,
he's ready, yeah.
Yeah.
He's ready for all that war. Do you think this franchise is going to go to Earth?
Ooh.
They're gonna reverse it?
I don't think so.
They're gonna,
because I just don't think you can make Earth look as visually interesting.
What are you talking about? After Earth is a movie. Just take the visuals from After Earth and do it.
See? Nope.
But what about that trailer for 65 that we got with Adam Driver?
I have no idea what that movie is.
It's like Roland Emmerich did After Earth.
It's crazy.
And Jurassic Park.
It's crazy. Find that trailer when you can, because it's madness.
It's the past, but it's the future.
But it's also the past?
It always has been.
I don't know, man. But that's Avatar 2, Way of the Water. It was great.
Yeah. I just it just gives me this hope for cinema, for movies, whether it be these blue aliens or whether it be a Martin Scorsese piece. I think there's room for everything, and it just gave me that feeling, man. That feeling that I love when you leave a theater. That it was a story that you were lost for 2 to 3 hours. You were lost and you were somewhere else, but you're also ever so present. You can connect to all these things. That's the beauty of it.
Let's give out some awards.
Award time. I'm in the wrong award. Oh no, I added this because of Andor. I saw favorite episode and I was very confused. What's your favorite performance in this movie?
It's Stephen Lang. It never stopped being Stephen Lang from the first one. He's great. It's one of the only times where I'm totally okay with them recycling a villain.
And a mustache twirling villain at that.
It always gets old, but in his case, it just doesn't get old.
It's because of his voice.
It's the voice, it's the bravado.
His Texas, New Orleans.
The way he calls him Corporal.
Yeah, Corporal.
The way he did the same speech from the first one.
Did. We are not in Kansas anymore.
I'm like, I know Stephen Lang.
But because he's looking out the window again, but he's in his avatar body. I'm like, this is awesome.
So yeah, I don't care. It's him.
Man, I think I'm not gonna. Again, it's one of those things. I'm not gonna overthink it. I think it's Jake. I think it's Sam. Nope. F you, Norm. I think it's Sam Worthington. The idea of what he keeps saying this thing through his monologue. He keeps talking about the protector. Like, it's this multifaceted thing where it's not just like, it's not just the grand scope of like, he's this protector, like he's this like storybook protector now, but like, it's just the simpleness of like, anytime like Took just runs up to him and she screams dad, like that's it. Like, that's the thing. Like,
yeah.
But he also acclimates to it very well. I think Sam Worthington, it's the subtlety that he brings this time that, again, I don't think it was anybody's fault on the first one. I just think it's a product of 2009 on the first one, which versus like...
I think the first one was truly just, here's this visual spectacle with a little bit of stuff in there. Where as this one, it was like, hey, we're going to give you an even more visual spectacle than the first one, but we're also we're gonna do some actual storytelling in this one and actual character work. And I think Sam Worthington is great in this.
I might have to give you another favorite line. I'll give you another one because I had to jump the gun on the last one, but the one I'm going to give you after, once we get there, is much more emotional than the other one. So,
man, I don't want that.
You could deliver one. Go ahead.
Favorite shot. It's tough.
It's easily when Loak and his buddy whale are in the water, like that sequence, and then just the end silhouette shot I think is phenomenal. Like, it encompasses like the idea of the way of the water, I think, both narratively and visually.
For me, it was one of the moments, like one of the shots that like literally made me react like in the moment. It's when Jake is doing a little like net kind of work, net fishing in the sea village, and the sunset just envelops him.
Yeah, that's great. Yep.
Man, like that's one of the shots in that movie where I actually reacted to it.
Yeah,
like,
I felt you react to it too. You were...
like I was taken aback by like that shot. I was like, oh.
Yeah, you were like, wow, like this is Pandora. Like
I was stunned. Yeah. I was actually stunned. Sure. I mean, the whole movie's gorgeous, but I mean that shot, to make like almost like unconsciously like react in that way, like it really took me back. So that's the one that I mentioned earlier that was just burned in my brain, man.
Sure. What's your favorite musical moment?
Man, I don't know if my favorite musical moment, but it's the one that stands out to me, and it's the whale hunting scene. It's so haunting. It's horrifying. And the music, like you said, he reuses the score from the forest moment in the first one when the tree falls. And it's just the same message, just delivered in an even more visceral way than the first movie. Because I mean, the first movie, like the destruction of the forest is,
and their homes.
It's heartbreaking, but it's not visceral.
Right.
Whereas this is visceral. This is a drawn out, probably almost 10-minute sequence.
Yeah, they do everything.
It's heart-wrenching, and the music is just like, you feel just heartbroken for this creature, and like I know that's the point. And you know, as we say so often about music, like how it accentuates scenes and accentuates how you're supposed to feel about them, be it joy, be it sadness, be it anger. That moment is again one of those things that like I'm not long to forget anytime soon.
I'm gonna have to go with Jake's oldest son's death. I think they did do some of the same music, but just in a different setting. And I think it's just the catapult into the second half of the first act, and it was just the idea of all the family being together and like what I must now do. Like it's just understanding the gravitas of the situation and like being subtle and then kind of rising to the occasion as a score is super important. So man, it was just that scene is just so tough. Like when he takes his last breath, like that was one of the toughest scenes I've had to watch this year. So man.
What about your favorite world building or lore moment?
Oh, it's easily when Kiri goes into the vision and she sees Sigourney Weaver, because I think it's an Anakin Skywalker situation where I think Kiri was born out of Awa. I think that's how it works. Like, I think that's why the World Tree rejected... I don't think the World Tree rejected Grace. I think it gave Grace a child. I think that's exactly what happened.
It feels like that's the direction it's heading, and it's definitely an unexpected one.
Yeah, and you said this movie wasn't going to have any twists and turns.
It definitely did. I'm liable to agree with you. Just, I guess, in a different kind of moment where, like, the moment where she does the thing, where she, like...
She's just bending.
She entraps that guy in, like, sea coral or whatever that is. And she just, like, she physically does it. Like, and she knows she can do it. Like, that was very cool and very unexpected.
Right.
Again, people might not feel it's particularly, like, earned or, like, where did this come from in this weird universe? But I'm all in.
Me too.
I'm immersed.
Yeah.
I'm along for the ride at this point. So that's mine.
What's your favorite action sequence from this movie?
It's the final confrontation between Quaritch and Jake. Just like that prolonged kind of fist fight that they have that starts with that very memorable line.
Let's get it done.
It's
very John Bernthal of Sam Worthington.
It's great, and you feel the emotion behind it. Like you feel like these are two mortal enemies.
Yep. Right.
At this point, that like it felt like it kind of took a second in the first one to get them to that personal kind of hatred, and then this one, like, it's deeply personal at this point, and this MFer just won't die.
Right.
He won't go away. He's literally the Terminator. Like
oh my gosh,
you can't kill him. And that was great.
Ooh. I'm probably gonna reverse and go the first action sequence between them. I think it's just the setting of which was presented. I think the not only the setting of like where the story is, I think it's physically where that story took place. Like it's something poetic about them being in essentially the grave of the original Quaritch. I think it's pretty it's pretty interesting, and just the way that Terry and Jake are moving there. You feel how in sync they are as parents too.
I love that.
And as love,
I love that throughout the whole movie. Like whenever they got into it together, like there's literally no spoken communication.
Yeah. You know what I also love? You know how Neytiri thought of him as like such this idiot? Like I think Neytiri now respects his militaristic mind, because I think now she understands, like he not only understands our ways, now he has this other advantage of being like a military mind on top of this.
Yeah.
So that worked really well. I think it was a good introduction to set the baseline for what this action is going to feel like in this movie too. Which
feels very different from the first movie.
Feels lot, like you said, it feels a lot more personal than the first movie. Like the hand-to-hand especially feels way more personal.
Yeah.
It's like an extension of the third act fight from the first one.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really good. What else we got?
Your turn or my turn? Who talks first? I talk first? You talk first?
You talk first. I don't know if you did, but you can now.
I guess we can go to the favorite line.
Okay, you go ahead.
Yeah, I want you to go.
Man, I it's weird that I'm going back to like...
Is it when Quaritch says, it gives me the goosebumps?
He doesn't say that.
But he does it the first part.
He says
a potent mix.
It's a potent mix. He brought it back. I retroactively really like this family is our fortress line.
Because it's much a trailer moment, like when you're watching it in the trailer, and then you watch it in the movie, I'm like, I'm emotional right now.
Yeah, this is our home, this is our family, this is our fortress, this is where we make our stand. Like, goddamn, like I'm in. Like I'm in on Jake as a parent at that point.
The
like
protector.
Yeah, protector. Like it's a simple line, but it's powerful.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sure. I got a line, and it's 3 words, and it's I see you. That's it. And it's when Jake finally tells it to Loak, he says I see you. Like, once you watch the movie, you'll really understand, like, how Loak must have felt. Like, he probably must have felt like his father didn't even love him. Like, that's probably...
Well, even after the older son dies, he says, you've done enough.
You've done enough. Like, he thinks, like, he blamed it essentially on him, too, and it's heartbreaking. He's a kid still. Like, he's a kid, like, even if the mistakes sometimes are his own, like, he's making a whole bunch of mistakes, but, man, when Jake finally... Because Loak doubles down on you know, his spirit whale, and he comes back and it works, and he tells him, like,
and he also doubles down on his irrationality. Like his decision to jump back into the fray is irrational. Like it is.
Sure,
it's not really with thought, but the only thing he's thinking of that point is like, I just lost my brother, I'm not gonna lose my parents or my sisters, you know, I'm gonna jump back into battle.
Right, and it's that subtle I see you. Like I said, Sam Worthington is great here, and I think that just kind of culminates into how great he was in this movie.
Yeah, and then what else we got? Did we do favorite moment yet?
No, we haven't.
Let's do that. Favorite moment.
There's so many great moments to be had. This is such a tough one. Oh man, I guess it's the my favorite moment is probably that Jake and Quaritch fight. You know what? I'll take that back. My favorite moment in this movie is when Loak is explaining the way of the water to Jake. I think that's my favorite moment. It's a payoff. Really it payoffs the title. It pays off where they are, the setting of the movie, the premise of the movie. It pays everything off. It pays off the relationships in this movie. It's everything.
I think I'm gonna go with the Jake connecting to the spirit tree and reliving the fishing excursion with his son, his deceased son, and they do the flip-flopping back and forth from when he's a young kid to the age he was when he died.
Man, when Neytiri also walks out, and
and they're kind of having like a shared experience like through the spirit tree, like. Yeah, it's again, like the first movie was very built upon the visual spectacle and the character work was kind of secondary. But this, it feels like anyway, they paid a lot of attention to the character work in this and really wanted you to feel things for these characters in a way that you might not have in the first one. And it pays off. Again, like I said, the audience reacted a lot to things that happened in the third act. And that scene is, again, it's just one of those things like the battle was won, but like a parent lost a son.
Yep.
You know, at the end of the day, like, and, you know, it's always, people always are reluctant to want to hear like, oh, they're in a better place, you know, which is essentially what happens here. Yeah. Like when they bury him, like they're like, he's with Awa now, like Awa takes you back basically and disperses your energy throughout the planet.
Mm-hmm. But man, you know, Neytiri sells that she doesn't, I don't think she, especially in Mo, she doesn't accept that at all. She doesn't accept that for one bit. That's a great one. And what this always ends on is your favorite character.
No, I'm not saying Quaritch. Even though I easily could have, because he deserves it. I think I'm going to say Jake, which I think I said Neytiri the last time for Avatar 1. But no, man, I really like the character he evolves into in this movie. Like I said, he goes from this insurgent to this reluctant warrior where he kind of like just wants to take care of his family, and then he's dragged back in for one last fight, and now by the time we get to the end, he's all in on the fight. Yep. Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Jake.
Yeah. My favorite part about Jake is that he's a dad. It's the most simple thing about him, but it's the most character defining that he's a dad. It's like the dad trope done right.
Yeah.
When like in a franchise, when somebody gets a kid and like some franchise don't know how to handle it, like this franchise and James Cameron immediately knew how to handle it and make it one of the most important things about this movie. I'm gonna say go to the person that makes you a father, and that's your son, and that's Loak. I think he's got big time main character energy in this, but well deserving. He's rebellious, but he's rebellious with good cause. He's interesting. He's dynamic. He's rash, but he's a kid learning. He's a kid putting his foot down, and I think it's this idea that it's Jake Sully coming back to life.
Yeah, I totally does great choice. Like, he's the character that we probably spend the most time with.
I love that he fails. I love it. I love that he fails so much too, because that's what it does. Is once he succeeds, it makes it so much sweeter.
Yep, totally agree. Final thoughts?
Go see this in the biggest theater. Go see this in the biggest theater that you can. Put the 3D glasses on, maybe, if you're okay with that. I will tell you, just from our experience, there were people in the theater. So all those people chirping in your ear that nobody cares about Avatar. Somebody cares about Avatar, and that's what's going to lead it to $500 million in a weekend. Like, people care about this franchise, whether you want to say it. And it was just like the diversity of the theater that's
the first thing I pointed out. Yep, I was like, there's a lot of different looking people in this theater.
It's a testament to what a story like this is. It's the simplicity of some of the themes, like the ideas of fathers and sons. Like most people, if not everybody, can relate to that. It's the idea for Quaritch of revenge. A lot of people can relate. Like there's simple themes in this movie, but if Top Gun has taught me anything, and even like I said, Everything Everywhere All at Once, even how grand and scale and how you shoot the movie, how crazy it can get, it's the simplicities in your characters and the things that make you feel. Once those things are very simple but resonant, that's what makes a great movie.
And I mean, obviously, to point out the obvious, all that character work and all that storytelling is great and obviously that's the stuff that we love, is what drives the story. But when it's paired with just unmatched visuals, unmatched, I like quite literally, like, this is the bar. Mm-hmm. And, you know, just like the first one was the bar that I don't think a lot of things around that time or past eclipsed. Mm-hmm. I don't see how anything can match this anytime soon. Right. You know, it's totally immersive. It's a technical marvel. Like, you're never once taken out of it, despite the fact that I feel very purposefully there is a human character interacting with the Na'vi characters and the environment at all times. Yep. And it's not distracting.
No.
Not for one single second.
They're the alien this time. They're the out of place character this time.
Not for one single second is there any distracting CGI or technique or anything. This whole movie is constructed visually and aesthetically flawlessly. Like, that's, you know, and you know, the first one was a high bar to clear, but like James Cameron said, you know, the reason this one took so long is because the technology that I wanted to use didn't exist yet.
Kate Winslet couldn't hold her breath for 8 minutes yet. That was truth. That's the truth.
And man, I think it was worth the wait.
I think it was worth the wait too.
That's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, this was one of my most anticipated movies of my life. Like I said, coming out of that first one, feeling a thing I've never felt walking out of a theater before, wondering if I was going to feel that again. And then I did. Mm-hmm. I did. I felt it again. I got up and just was in awe. I was in awe of what I'd just seen. That's the ultimate theater experience in my mind, is when you can walk out of a thing going, I can't believe that was a real thing that I just watched. So yeah, we'll see. We'll be monitoring closely what the next few weeks and possibly months hold for this movie. I'm definitely planning on seeing it again.
Yeah, me too.
At some point. So yeah, man, just incredible, incredible movie. So like you said, go see it in a theater. I can't stress that enough. Yeah. I've had people already tell me, like, yeah, I'll catch it on streaming. I'm like, no. No. No, you have to go see this in a theater. Right. There's not many movies I would say that for. Luckily, we've had 2 of them this year.
Yeah. I think we've had 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
that's Avatar.
That's Avatar.
Way of the Water.
Now you gotta wait another 13 years.
Nope. Maybe that's the trick.
So what have you been up to? Nothing.
Nope. That's incorrect. You know what I've been up to.
I do know what you've been up to.
I finished The Last of Us Part 2 just in time for The Last of Us television show.
In about a month from now.
Yeah. They're literally in 28 days, I think this show is. 28 days later. Oh, crap. Not Cillian Murphy's back. Oh, man. That last hour of that game is something.
I told you.
That's the definition of Ellie said, I can't let this slide. Like, I need to show up. Man, it's just... It's the voice performances and the mocap work, but specifically the voice performances, but from Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker
and Laura Bailey also.
Laura Bailey, yeah, it's phenomenal. It's nothing short. I love the growth you feel with Ellie, from this 14-year-old girl up to this 20-year-old that's been through so much. That's essentially lost her whole family, but lost her best friend, lost her family, and then got a second chance. This idea of second chances that's a theme in The Last of Us. And then she loses it again, and it's like a vice versa. Like, it's funny that Joel was able to save it, but she wasn't able to save it. Like, she wasn't able to do
her vengeance consumed her.
Mm-hmm. And it broke her family that she had gained. Like, all the things she gained back, she lost. Like, she lost her, like an uncle. Like, she lost an uncle because she didn't do the thing she said she was going to do. She lost her family. Like, she lost her child and her wife because she couldn't just lay it to bed. But again, it's the same thing that happened with Joel at the end of the first one. Like, I can't... like, Joel said I couldn't lose my daughter, and Ellie said I can't just let my father die without any, revenge or... But then...
She realizes, like, cycle of violence, like, it can't continue like
Yeah,
this.
and I think it's also by seeing that Abby is not this. Abby is kind of a reflection of Joel essentially, because Abby also gets a young. She gets Lev, and she kind of takes Lev under her wing, and he kind of like presents this way of like Ellie's also that tough that Lev is too. Like she's that same kind of like capable tough kid that's with Abby, and it's just, I guess it's this experience for Ellie that's just like I can't do this. Like she's trying to save Lev the same way that Joel saved me. I can't do this. But man, that fight,
brutal.
Brutal. Like, man, it was the same thing that what Corge and Jake got into. Like, it was
very visceral. Yeah,
Abby's done. Like, they cut her hair off. She's been tortured. Like, she just wants to get her new little brother out of there, essentially. And like Ellie's like, come on, you know what we got to do. I just wasn't expecting it. I thought that game was gonna do something else. Like, I'm so glad I didn't get that spoiled. Like, when they start throwing, like, it's just hands. Like, they're just throwing hands. Like,
they're both just done.
Oh yeah. I love that. It's an epitome of what the universe is. Like, everybody's just over it. Like, they're done. Like, it's been 25 years since the world ended, and like, there's no hope on the horizon. Ellie was the last piece of hope, and that's gone. Like, it's over. So like, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired, and I think that's what it was. Like, it's ending the cycle of violence and like saying like I'm tired. And man, oh man, it's just, see. They did the thing that they did the thing that Avatar did at the end. That Avatar 2 did. It was cool. We did the thing, and then you just had to hit me. You had to gut punch me emotionally, because then you had to cut back to Joel, and we finally get the payoff for Joel had to pay for his consequences, and you find out the saddest thing about their entire arc together is that they never reconciled. Like,
yep.
The last, what was the last thing she said to Joel was like, "I'll see you later." That was the last thing that they had conversation, because obviously the last thing she said to him was like, "Get up." But like, the last conversation they had was like one of like, she said she knew, like, I know what you did, and like, that was wrong. Like, it's not only like it was wrong in the sense of like, obviously it was wrong because you killed people, but it was wrong in the sense like, you didn't let me sacrifice myself for the greater good, because
you took the choice away from me.
Yeah, you took the choice away from me. You played God. Essentially that day. Man. I can't wait for this show. Like, I keep seeing like people that haven't played the game and like look at clips, and like I see like Henry and Sam, and I'm like, just no. I see like David, I'm like, no, this isn't gonna be cool. Like, this isn't gonna be one of those things where this is cool.
It's not gonna be The Walking Dead.
No, it's not The Walking Dead. You're gonna have clinical depression for like for like 10 weeks. Just a glorious decision to make the first episode a movie. So it's going to essentially be a movie and then a 9-episode TV series. Yeah. I think that's awesome. So I do think, being with the 90 minutes, I do think that the first episode, I think they are going to start from jump. I know we were theorizing that they might do flashbacks to get there, but I do think the first, like, the movie is essentially going to end with like Joel, the 20-year later thing, and then Joel's going to be walking throughout the city, and like, I think it's going to end with like Tess and Joel meeting Ellie for the first time, and then they'll go on the Last of Us.
We'll do The Last of
Us.
Yeah. Man.
What about you, man?
I've been sinking heaps of time into Crisis Core Reunion, the next installment, I guess you could say, of the entire Final Fantasy VII remake project. It is I struggle to call it a remaster of a PSP game from 2012, because it's more than that. They added a ton of mechanics. They replaced all the voice cast with the Final Fantasy VII remake voice cast to more in line with it. It is a prequel, which opens up a whole other bag of worms, because this prequel game ostensibly spoils the biggest plot twist of the original Final Fantasy VII, which is the Cloud's identity crisis, where, you know, he presents himself as this soldier, first class mercenary guy, who had this really horrible thing happen to him in his hometown of Nibelheim, where Sephiroth, his archenemy, burned the town to the ground, murdered his family, his friends, and he's always unclear on how that conflict resolved. And you find out because of Crisis Core, and later on in Final Fantasy VII, because Cloud was not who he said he was in that sequence. He was a regular infantryman. He never made soldier. what he was a bystander to Zack, who is the protagonist of Crisis Core, who was the first class soldier that was in Nibelheim when Sephiroth went mad. And then Zack is quickly dealt with by Sephiroth. Cloud actually kills Sephiroth in that moment. Cloud and Zack are both experimented on. Zack doesn't take to the experiment because he's already enhanced. And then Cloud gets this bond to Sephiroth through this experiment. They travel together all the way through Midgar to Midgar, where Cloud's in a coma this entire time. Zack has a last stand against Shinra and is killed, and Cloud wakes up just in time to see his best friend dying. Zack gives him the Buster Sword and says, "You're my living legacy," and then Cloud compartmentalizes that and imprints upon his own self, like that he was Zack, essentially. So that's the big plot twist of the original. So them releasing this now makes you wonder what's in store for the future of Remake, because now that plot twist is off the board, because you're seeing that all in real time, it's interesting. And the game's really great. They made tons of improvements over the original PSP version, combat-wise. The voice cast is stellar. Tyler Hoechlin continues the Sephiroth Superman legacy casting, as the old Sephiroth voice actor was George Newbern.
So you know who the live action Sephiroth has to be.
It's got to be Henry Cavill. Yeah. So I've been sinking time to that. Almost done with it. After that, I'll be jumping onto The Witcher 3, which I'm really excited about. Yeah. So that's, I think, it for us this week. You can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram
at the Project Infinite Pod.
Thank you very much. You can find this episode and every other episode we've done, all 70 some odd of them, almost at 75. I guess it's technically 75, past 75 with all the special episodes.
We don't count those. Those aren't episodes.
Yeah, we don't count those. So I think episode 75 is next week.
Yeah, we'll do something for that. I have a trick up my sleeve.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't think we have anything planned.
No.
But it's also the end of the year.
It'll be the end of the year.
Yeah, I have something planned.
Cool. So we'll discuss that. Did all the socials.
Yeah, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
Amazon, Pandora.
Yep. You knew this was coming, Pete.
So from me, I don't have to be careful. They're all aliens.
What are you trying to say?
From the quartz. No, I'm kidding.
You gonna give me the sun?
Loak?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You're not quite hard enough to be Jake Sully yet.
Dang it.
The Loak of the podcast. The way of the water, something.
Dark side.
Life and death, something. Return to the planet, something. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Sigourney Weaver's just God.
Crazy. What a crazy maneuver to pull, James Cameron.
I just didn't think I bet you the cell was just like, "Hey, Sigourney, you trying to be in this movie?" And then she was just like, "Didn't I die in the last one? I'm also 70 years old." And he's just like, "A, you get to be a kid again." And she said, "Okay." And then B, you get to be Jake Sully's kid in Natiri. He's just like, "Yeah, all right." And then C, you get to be God, essentially. And she's just like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
I'm in.
Man, what a move.
And then Kate Winslet's cell was like, "You want to be underwater?" And she's just like, "Why don't you just leave with that? I'm in." And that was it. That was her whole cell.
Man, Kate Winslet really didn't have to be in the
She was just mad for like an hour 45.
And it's just not, doesn't feel like Kate Winslet.
No. The only reason I knew it was Kate Winslet because it looked like Kate Winslet a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was just like, just anger for like so long.
Oh man.
She was like pregnant and then just still want to fight. That's not responsible.
That's hardcore as hell.
It is hardcore.
Not as hardcore as holding your own skull in your hand and then crushing it. Which is the most hardcore thing anyone's ever done.
Man, Forge has really got that dog in him.
And he will continue to have that dog in him.
Mm-hmm. And sequels to come.
I can't wait. Give me more courage, you cowards.
Is the quest for AWA going to be like the quest for peace?
Who knows?
Who's to say? James Cameron's the only one to say.
Give me a courage spin-off series on Disney+.
How?
I don't know. Make one. All right, guys. Well, we got to go.
I need him to like read a book or something.
Huh?
I need him to like read a book, but in the...
Courage?
Yeah.
Like an audiobook?
Yeah.
The Lore of Pandora?
Yeah, just
Narrated by Quaritch.
Yeah.
He would hate it.
Bioluminescent animals on an alien planet. That's a potent mix. Give me the goosebumps. Just imagine that for like 2 hours.
He just ad-libs certain things, like, interspersed while he's reading.
Yep. Where is he from?
I don't know.
He's from Kansas City, New Orleans. Like, I don't know where this guy is from. That's it.
Yeah, we gotta go, man.
Red time is over.
It's like 2 a.m.
What? It's 5 o'clock somewhere, says Quaritch.
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere to kill some Navi.
All right. We're gonna go now. Goodbye.
Peace.
Fire.